So Kunti began her prayers with how the Supreme Lord is actually inconceivable and why he is inconceivable, and how to make that Lord inconceivable. Then she said that by chanting the holy names of the Supreme Lord, that inconceivable Lord can gradually become conceivable for a sincere chanter of the holy names. The holy names then will reveal the form which she described in the verses Namo Pankajana. And after, through the proper chanting and the deity worship, and also having gratitude, we all do those external practices. But what is our difficulty in realizing the Supreme Lord? Despite chanting, despite doing deity worship and engaging in other aspects of devotional service, what is the problem? The problem is in the attitude of lacking gratitude. So that she touched upon through those verses, that how through a series of constant dangers, that how Krishna saved her, and she's very grateful to Krishna for helping. Though apparently in some of those circumstances, Krishna was not explicitly seen to intervene. She still counted with gratitude, even those are instances, thanking Krishna for constantly saving her. So, the attitude of a devotee who, or the qualification of a devotee who is able to understand the Supreme Lord, is that not just they engage in spiritual sadhana, which is very important also. So, apart from engaging from the sadhana, additionally, what is the attitude of a devotee which makes the Supreme Lord conceivable is that that devotee constantly sees Krishna's intervention in their life and expresses gratitude for Krishna's intervention through one's life. So we may think, yes, Krishna, please intervene in my life, remove my problems, make me more happy, make me wealthy, solve my problems. So then, in those circumstances, I am happy to acknowledge Krishna's presence in my life and intervention in my life. However, the difficulty comes when there is suffering. So, the situations when there is suffering actually exposes our real attitude. How much actually are we grateful for the Supreme Lord when problems come into our life? We immediately blame others or ourselves for our problems. But here, Kunti Maharani is saying, no, all of these things has actually brought me closer to you. So that attitude of gratitude that she has, and in seeing that whether good or bad, everything actually is Krishna's mercy, that he is sending this into my life, and there is surely a higher reason, even if I'm not able to understand. So in that way, when we actually, she sees all these dangers actually made me more conscious of you, more dependent on you. It brought me such intimate association of yours. So I see these dangers as mercy. So she prays for more such dangers, because she can actually continue to see Krishna's intervention in her life. To that effect, she says things like wealth, beauty, education, these things actually take me away from you. It stops me from chanting your holy names with feelings. So I consider them as actually dangers. The world may consider them as valuable things to possess. However, I don't care to possess anything which will take me away from you. So, in fact, she says, Chanadi is actually impoverished in the sense that they don't see anything material as they possessing it, or they don't allow anything material to possess them. And Prabhupada explains the example of Sanatan Goswami. And in this way, she says that what are the qualifications to be able to conceive the supremacy of the Lord, to understand that the Supreme Lord is inconceivable and how inconceivable He is. The ability to understand the supremacy of the Lord comes from not just chanting the holy names, not just worshipping the deities and engaging in other process of devotional service, but it is necessary for a devotee to develop gratitude towards the Supreme Lord, not only in good times, however, seeing Krishna's hands throughout one's life, both in the good times and in the apparent bad times. And seeing that I belong to the Supreme Lord, these are the qualities with which one can actually conceive the Supreme Lord. So that is what we discussed in the last few weeks. And today, now that the Supreme Lord, we once someone may understand the Supreme Lord is great, he's supreme, he's inconceivable, still it is very difficult to accept the activities of the Lord. The activities of the Lord, or when he appears in this world, can be very difficult for people to accept. There can be multiple reasons for that, and that's what Queen Kunti is going to explore in these verses today, and from verses 28 to 31. So these are 4 verses, and I just want to read through the translations and then see what are the things that can actually make it difficult for us to understand the Supreme Lord's activities. She says that, first of all, people have a problem that how can the Supreme Lord even come? And even if they accept that the Supreme Lord can come and incarnate in this world, it's a nagging thing for people. Like, why is he then? Why is there suffering in this world? Why am I suffering? Why is there evil in this world? If he is merciful, then why is difficulties and problems and suffering and pain in this world? And that she discusses in the verse 28, that how the Lord, who is impartial, can seem to be partial to his devotees, offering mercy to them. And the other problem in understanding the activities of the Lord is that he appears as human and his activities are so misleading. It's very difficult to understand the the activities of the Lord when he is appearing in the form of a human and engages in different kinds of activities. And what to speak of being a human, it is even more bewildering and difficult to accept his activities or conceive his activities when he appears as an animal form or in an aquatic form. And even if someone accepts, oh, the Lord can actually incarnate into this world and he can take not just human forms, but he can also take animal forms. And still he remains omnipotent and omniscient. And for them, it becomes difficult when that Supreme Lord forgets his omniscience and fears his mother. So because of all these things, it becomes difficult to understand the activities of the Lord. I hope that makes sense. Like, there are the reasons that, first of all, it is very difficult to accept that the Lord even can incarnate into this world, that he can even appear in this world. And even if someone accepts that, people may have a problem that why is there pain? Why am I going through suffering? So their individual suffering, they are unable to reconcile with the activities of the Lord. If he is coming and if he is distributing mercy, why am I suffering? What is the reason for the problems that are in this world? Why are people are fighting? Why is God letting this happen, letting that happen? And even if we understand, oh, it's all our doing, it's all karma and all these things, if we understand, still it becomes very difficult to see that the Supreme Lord can appear as a human being and do things like take help from monkeys to build a bridge, cry for his wife's abduction, or run away and dance with other men's wives, and in the middle of the night. That becomes very bewildering. Okay, let him come and do the God's work, act in a way that is like easy to accept him as God. Why do all these bewildering stuff? And what to speak of that? Some people cannot accept that God can come in lower than human forms. And even if we think, oh, no, no, God is omniscient, God is omnipotent, he can come in any form, he can do anything he wants, still for them it becomes bewildering that the very same Lord forgets his omniscience and omnipotence and becomes a small baby and fears his mother and runs away, hides in fear, cries, don't beat me. So, in this way, all the loving activities of the Supreme Lord can be bewildering for multiple people for various reasons. And that's what she's going to clarify in these next 4 verses from 28, 29, 30, and 31. So, is there anything that anyone wanted to share, clarify, highlight from what we saw earlier? That how what makes the Lord inconceivable is our lack of gratitude, not just lack of sadhana. That is first problem. We don't engage in the spiritual process which will actually reveal us the Supreme Lord. That's our first ignorance. We don't engage in a spiritual process to peel off those layers of ignorance. However, despite sadhana, we lack gratitude and we have difficulty in seeing the hand of the Supreme Lord and believe in His goodness, that He will not actually, He is there to help me. And despite that, after even, okay, since I see some hands, Mother Gail and then Keshav, Mother Pro.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah, when it comes to our not being able to perceive Krishna due to a lack of gratitude, I'm just want to confirm my understanding there. So the way I understand it is that by not recognizing how Krishna is helping us, even when we're going through experiences that we don't like, then because of that, we're not able to recognize or appreciate the mercy that He is giving us through those kinds of experiences. In other words, by not recognizing that Krishna can be expressing his mercy and kindness to us, both in ways that we like as well as in ways that we don't like, we're not in that way being grateful. I mean, it's understandable that you're not maybe instinctively appreciative of experiences that you don't like, but gratitude, I'm understanding from you, means to recognize that Krishna's mercy and kindness and affection can be there also in experiences that we don't like, not just the experiences that we like. So is that correct, or is there something more to add to that?
No, it is correct that Krishna intervenes in our lives, both in externally, sometimes it may look good and sometimes it may not. And that ability to see Krishna's hands in our lives and accept it in a mood of gratitude and humility, that makes one qualified. So I would say what you summarized is perfect. Adding to it, we are also, as human beings, we have a huge ego. We are addicted to that, and despite being devotees, we have that problem of ego. Because of that, we are unable to actually come closer to Krishna. And when Krishna starts operating on it, it becomes extremely painful. I think I'm so great and I'll achieve these things, and Krishna may intervene through others ego and may cause problem. Then I may just see they are the problems. Their ego is the problem. They are causing me pain. How can they do this? So I get enveloped in my own ego instead of seeing that, oh, Krishna has sent me this instance so that I can actually untangle myself from my ego. I am not the doer. And there are things beyond me, and my services and my activities are for the pleasure of Krishna. Instead of rising above, I get again enveloped in the ego further. It's like Krishna is sending down a rope, and I use the rope to hang myself instead of climbing through it. So again and again, we go through this, and eventually, through that continuous pain, through some good fortune and association, it may suddenly open up. Oh, I've been so egoistic all my life. It may take a while. Krishna has to again and again and again send that problem, different people in our lives, to poke on our ego. Eventually, for that to make a hole and realize, oh my God, okay, this is what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to just offer my obeisances and say, Krishna, I'm not the doer. I'm here to please you. Even if these things don't go well, this is for your pleasure. Take it. And even if things are not working according to my will, or people are not listening to me or acting according to my will, I'm okay. It's not about me. So that kind of a detachment from ego he's trying to teach. It's just one example. It could be different things for different people, and the details of it could be different for different people. But my principle is, we are hugely attached in a big way. We are attached to ego, and Krishna brings in situations to tamper that ego, to actually chip away that gradually. And it could be quite painful. And we may find ourselves whining and complaining and crying and fighting and resenting. That's what we'll do when we don't have gratitude. And that's also part of the process. That's also part of the process. A devotee gradually rises above through those whining phases. Just imagine, like, if someone captured all those moments and showed us as we grow, looking back, we feel like, oh my God, like I was so absorbed in my ego. I was fighting with someone or absorbed for days together. That anger, like that internal dialogue that I went through constantly, that how can they do this? So that all that when we release, I see like, oh my God, it's such a relief. So gradually that happens. It does not happen overnight. Through through gradual process, we become more and more grateful and accept Krishna's sending us his mercy in any way or form.
Yeah. So one consideration here is that it can be a little tricky, isn't it, to decide, what am I just whining about and what is actually like practical for my bhakti. Yeah, I think that's the trick, actually, to figure out which people or circumstances are just my ego not getting its way, and which people or circumstances are actually kind of like detrimental to my bhakti. Because I could easily I would think that a situation that I find disagreeable is not that is practical for my bhakti. It's just that it's disagreeable to my false ego. But sometimes the person or the situation is detrimental for my bhakti. And so trying to sort that out, I feel, can be a little tricky.
Tricky. Yeah, true. Thank you for bringing that. Like even in Kunti's life, we see it's not that she is allowing Duryodhana or Dharashtra or anybody else for that matter to physically harm them or like mete out injustice to them. External measures to correct those things were taken. However, what is the attitude? Do I resent them, or do I see everything as Krishna's mercy and do the needful externally, physically, practically? But what is the attitude with which I engage?
Yeah, I guess the attitude should be, not that I'm resentful for having to deal with this situation.
So why is Krishna doing this to me?
Yeah, it's for my own good.
Yeah, but it's very difficult for us to, there will be somewhere in the heart we'll be thinking, why Krishna? So that gradually we grow and to offer obeisances like how Mother Kunti is doing. It's extremely difficult. It might take some time.
But anyway, the safest route is to feel that no matter how disagreeable the situation or the person is that's crossing my path, that I should assume that Krishna is purposely having me deal with this.
Yes. So the attitude should be grateful. With a grateful heart, we can do externally whatever is required. It's not that devotees should let themselves to be abused or anything like that.
Right.
So that's the other extreme of it, that we think, oh, everything is mercy. So this person keeps being so unreasonable, and I just let myself being abused, and eventually I'll just explode that why Krishna did this to me like that. So there is nothing spiritual about being abused or abusing somebody else in any way. At the same time, while dealing with all of those things, our attitude towards Krishna should remain grateful. That's the only thing. We are not saying how externally one should act. Different devotees may act externally in given circumstances according to their life. That's, we are not judging how they are reacting. However, what they have to take care of is their attitude. They have to see in their own hearts how grateful they are when they are going through those things. That's all. So it's not for nobody else to judge them how they did, why they did. It's between Krishna and them. And for the devotee themselves, they can look into their hearts and see how grateful they are for everything that's happening in their lives.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this abuser thing in, because the way I would see that situation is, yes, I'm grateful that I had to deal with that kind of person, but that doesn't mean that Krishna intends for me to keep that person in my life. He brought that person to me because having to deal with that person is going to, in the process of dealing with that person, my consciousness has the potential to be rectified in some way, but that doesn't mean that Krishna intends for me to keep that person in my life.
Yeah.
So I can be grateful, but still deal with the situation, even in the case of an abuser. Yes, I'm grateful that Krishna gave me that situation to have to deal with because of the potential it has to uplift my consciousness, but that doesn't mean that I'm supposed to keep that person in my life. Sorry about being repetitive. I'm just thinking.
No, I understand. It is a detail, and we all go through it. So it's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much.
I'm not sure if in the interest of time you lowered your hand, or if okay, you think we can take it later, right? Thank you. So here the verses, basically in the coming verse, Kunti is trying to address these four things: that people may think God is unjust, or people may think God is not all powerful. If they think, oh, God is just and powerful, but he may not be all merciful. If all of the above is true, then probably I don't have a free will. I'm being like a puppet. I don't have the free will. So people may have these conceptions, which she addresses in the coming verse. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you're equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. Let's read the purport through, and then, because it's a lot, sometimes I feel like I bite more than what I can chew, because it's very, then I will only complete one verse if really I want to address and match all of these points towards the purport. But we will find all these points in Prabhupada's purport. So here Queen Kunti is saying that I consider your Lordship to be eternal time. Why eternal time? Because the time is actually impartial. And that's what Prabhupada first chooses to address, because that's what she also begins with, addressing Krishna as Kala. And Prabhupada is saying that the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. And Prabhupada says, eternal time is the witness of all our actions, and the resultant reactions are also destined by him. So he writes, it's no use saying that we do not know why or for what we are suffering. So this is the deep-rooted attitude that can be difficulty in appreciating Krishna's mercy. That I don't know why or for what I'm suffering. We may forget, Prabhupada writes, the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is a constant companion, and therefore he knows everything past, present, and future. And because the Paramatma feature of the Lord destines all actions and reactions, he is the supreme controller also. The word Eanam is being explained there. So without his sanction, not a blade of grass can move. And so here, this particular concept can, that he, whatever comes, like, is just. So can actually be very hard for people to accept, that the Lord could be that God could exist itself. For many people, it's very difficult to accept. Even when they accept, to consider him as completely just, to completely impartial and just is very hard, because when they suffer, it just makes it difficult for them to accept. Like, how can I suffer? And what do you think is the reason that we are unable to accept our suffering when we go through it? It's pride and ego. Means, I know it sounds like very harsh, but the thing is, it's the attitude, it's the pride of the conditioned soul and the ego of the conditioned soul that makes this conditioned soul think that I don't deserve this. That's why the question many times, why do bad things happen to good people, can come from a place of ego, because I consider myself as good and whatever happening to me as bad. So I have a full judgment, that I have a complete conviction that I'm good, which is a very, means, to be honest, in this world, no one can claim they are good actually in a conditioned state of consciousness. Knowingly, unknowingly, we all envy others, we all do, even if we don't act on it. We have envy in the heart, we have pride in the heart. So it would be very difficult for us to say that we are good actually. We are good, the soul is eventually good. But currently, in the conditioned state, it would be a huge jump or a judgment to say, I'm good and whatever is happening to me is bad. So that ego and pride is the thing that is actually making one arrogant in the face of suffering and call God like he does not, he first of all does not exist, because there is misery and evil in this world. But even if you say no, he exists with the logical reasoning, I don't consider him as just, because then why am I suffering? Why are these people suffering? Believe me, majority of the society never recovers from these two arguments. Most of them keep spirituality at arm's length because of these two reasons. Either God don't exist, or if he exists, he is not a just God, because there is suffering and pain in this world. And Kunti Maharani goes ahead to address this particular thing, that he is just in distributing his mercy. Then if someone says, then why is there problem here if he is just? Then he says that is not his problem. The dissensions between the living beings is the cause in the course of the social intercourse that causes all of this pain. So this is her way of answering this question. No, he is actually, he is equal in distributing his mercy. Because as Kala, he just distributes whatever fruits that one needs to receive based on one's past. I may not remember what I did in the past, but this faith that Krishna is just, whatever I experience, I deserve it. And rather he's giving this out of his mercy to me in a way that I can actually learn and grow. For a devotee, I'm saying, for a normal person, at least they should have this much conviction that the God is just. He is not unjust. And then if they have a hiccup with this problem, that why is there evil in this world, that's not again God's problem. It's actually because of the pride and envy which manifest in the desire to compete for the resources of this world. Living entities compete for the resources of this world out of pride and envy, and that competition to actually exploit this world causes all the pain and suffering in this world, be it Holocaust, be it any other kind of man-made problems. It's the reason that people out of pride and envy are competing for material resources and create immense amount of pain and suffering to each other. If we are honest in our own lives, we do that. There is one particular thing that they want, and we see multiple people are competing for it, and that competition gives rise to so much pain, so much suffering, either physically or mentally. You can see that in spiritual organizations too. Limited resources and the competition to achieve those limited resources cause all the drama and takes us away from the meaning of life itself. So that bhutanam yanmitaha kalihi, the dissensions between living beings in the core in the are due to the social intercourse, their own interactions based out of bodily conception, pride, and envy is the cause of all pain. Then we may say, then why is natural disasters occur? Okay, we interact and we cause suffering. That okay, if I'm humble enough, I accept that because I'm humble. So I accept that. I may feel proud that I'm humble in accepting that. But it becomes very difficult to see how can a natural disaster like an earthquake occur and millions of people or thousands of people, hundreds of people suffer that. It becomes very hard to explain that. How can God, if he is merciful, let that happen? So it would take an immense amount of faith to acknowledge our own wrongdoing and not blame others. But it is even harder to take full responsibility for ourselves and what happens to us, and to break that cycle of karma, accusation, pain, resentment, and claims for justice. This is all one level. And to understand that even if inconceivable things like big natural disasters happen, everything is by the control of Kala, that he is the supreme controller, he is the time, he understands what is happening. In distributing his mercy, he is actually equal to everyone. To have that understanding and conviction is really hard because it is beyond our ability to conceive. How is it possible? So to take full personal responsibility for our actions does not mean actually condemning ourselves either. A cruel self judgment or a complete self draining guilt, these are also manifestations of pride. So we are not speaking about a critical self judgment which paralyzes us. We are not speaking about guilt and shame which paralyzes us. Taking full responsibility does not mean condemning ourselves or others. Sometimes it's okay we can see, okay, I don't want to blame others, but we may blame ourselves. How stupid you did that. How naive you were that you let this happen. So we may continue to just revel in that self judgment for a very long time. So both are unhealthy, to blame others and to blame ourselves. Taking responsibility means to recognize the Lord's justice, mercy, and thank him for all the invaluable lessons he has taught us. It takes immense amount of surrender to say it's the prerogative of the Supreme Lord in the form of time to judge me as he sees appropriate, and it is his right to do so, and I accept it graciously. It's a form of surrender to say the Supreme Lord reserves all the right to actually bring anything he deems appropriate into my life. It's his prerogative as God, as time, as Kala, and supreme controller to judge me, and it is his right to do so. It's very difficult for conditioned ego to accept that. And that's what she's literally trying to say, that ego is that biggest problem in accepting the activities of the Supreme Lord, because these are the immediate activities of the Supreme Lord. We think of Krishna dancing about in the Ras Lila, and all these things also is Lila. But this is also part of the Lila, that you and me suffering in this world, then the rest of the people going through suffering, it's also part of the Lila of the Lord, because the Kala is manifesting it. And that is very difficult for the conditioned soul to accept. My suffering is Lila of the Supreme Lord. So that's what she is saying. This is the qualification to understand the higher activities of the Lord. If I don't have this much amount of surrender and accept the acceptance of God's supreme power, then how am I in this world accepting that Supreme Lord can appear in this world, take multiple forms, not in human form, not low, even lower than human form? How do I think in this world I have the faith to accept that, and not have the faith to accept that God, as God, has all the right to judge me, and it is his right to do so. So it may sometimes we may gloss over that aspect, and that's an uncomfortable truth. Let me keep aside. I am a great devotee. I accept Krishna can appear, Krishna God exists, and he can come into this world, and he can offer his mercy. He can engage in glorious activities. I come to Janmashtami, Radhashtami, and I speak of esoteric pastimes, and that's like, wow, this is so nectar. But when it comes to this, we may actually shudder that to say that God, as God, reserves the right to judge me, and it is his right to do so. And I have full faith that he is just and he is actually merciful. So she nails that first. She says, if you're not accepting this, if you have problem in accepting this, that means there is a huge ego, pride, and envy there. So without removing that, it would be very difficult. Yes, by the mercy of a devotee, interrupt the by the intervention of a devotee in our lives, we have by good fortune developed this faith that Krishna can appear in this world, and Krishna can perform these pastimes. He is transcendental. He is not limited by the modes of the material nature. Does not get contaminated by the modes of material nature. We, by good fortune and the association of great devotees like Prabhupada, we have developed some faith in these truths. But that does not mean we should fail to acknowledge the pride and envy and ego we still hold on to. And we don't need to put ourselves again down. Oh, I'm such a fallen person. That's not the idea. The idea is to actually accept or recognize Krishna's justice, mercy, and thank him for all the invaluable lessons he's teaching us through them. That's all is the thing that requires that I accept that Krishna is just and he is merciful, and I thank him for all the lessons he brings me into this life, and also see the world through this prism. Because sometimes we may try to fix the world in an independent attitude. This world is an unjust place because God is unjust. I'm going to bring in social justice to balance that injustice. I'm not saying activism is a problem. Activism is with an attitude that this place is actually unjust, and I'm the one who is so great. I'm here to fix that problem. That ego with which we project ourselves onto the world to think that we can fix the world is the problem. That ego is the problem. Bettering the world, making it a better place for others to live is not a problem. Why did then even Prabhupada preach? Because he knows that he has the responsibility to make it better for the people of this world, but it is not done out of ego. That's the problem with the general social activism. When it comes from a place of ego, it ends up creating more trouble and more pain inadvertently. No political maneuvering in the form of Russian Revolution or French Revolution or any of those things, world wars, none of those has actually brought about more justice or mercy. It rather brought more pain. So each thing has a problem. Each thing, when you're trying to manipulate the world with ego, it always leads to more chaos and more complication. And anyone who walks into this world devoid of personal ego, acting as instruments of God, tries to do things that actually untangles those knots. We can see someone like Prabhupada doing that contribution because he did this in the mood of being a servant of the Supreme as an instrument of God. He could untangle people from the mire of material mesh. Otherwise, we can just create things in the name of making the world just, and we can make more and more people get stuck in the karmic cycle. So everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in course of social intercourse. This is the attitude. Do we want to look at the world and say this world is an unjust place and it's a cruel place, or we want to see whatever suffering or enjoyment happening, it's all because of the destiny made by the living beings in the course of their social intercourse. And Prabhupada writes an amazing statement. Everyone here wants to lord it over material nature. That's a problem. And thus, because of that, everyone creates his or her own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. We are not creating it independent of the Supreme Lord's supervision. We are creating destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. And because he is all pervading and he can see everyone's activities, so he offers those results to us. So this is our first understanding that yeah, God is not unjust. God is God is not God is all powerful. God is all merciful. And we have the free will. We have the ones through our free will have created the pain and sufferings that we are undergoing. So this is the first thing that we need to understand in order to accept or conceive the activities of the Supreme Lord. Yes, Puri Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, on the topic of free will and freedom, if we need Paramatma's sanction for even as an activity as simple as blinking the eye, then it seems that the only freedom and free will that we have is within the framework of devotional service, isn't it? In any of the 9 forms, because in that framework we can even like the most fallen person can decide to rise up to the most elevated devotee of Krishna. So it seems as if our free will, like whatever tiny free will and freedom we have, is limited to only the devotional service. But outside that, everything, like there is no free will or any kind of freedom. Everything depends on our karma, isn't it?
To some extent, yes. When you take up to devotional service, your karma is being handled by Krishna personally to bring us closer to him. So that's when a devotee starts seeing even the sufferings as mercy of Krishna, because the conviction that Krishna is all merciful and just, and even apparently I don't understand why am I suffering, I have complete faith that this is for my good. So this freedom we have. So the
Yes.
freedom
We
of
don't
that
have
attitude.
exactly. So we don't have any freedom or free will in mundane activities.
What do
So
you
which
mean
is
by that?
anything that is outside, like when we like we are always taught to think about Krishna from the moment we wake up till the moment we sleep, and whatever activities we are doing, we are asked to dedicate it to Krishna, which is
Okay.
why all of this would then make the activities spiritual, as long as it's not like a sin like murdering someone or anything. uh,
Mhm.
so then we have free will in that aspect. But if I am not dedicating my activity to Krishna, or I'm and no, like the activities outside the sphere of devotional service, then I have no free will or no freedom in anything that I do.
Okay. Means my problem in just saying yes is I don't want to leave you with a misconception, but I'm not able to penetrate through what do you think as that you don't have freedom or free will.
Just like anything, like when we think about karma, then we always say that, oh, why did this happen to me, or I would like to become a millionaire, for example. But
Mhm.
no matter how hard I try to be a millionaire, if that is not written in my karma in my future, that is not going to happen, because
Okay.
karma sanction is needed, which also
Hmm.
depends on my past activities, isn't it?
Okay.
In that sense, I don't have any free will or any freedom, irrespective of my material efforts. But suppose if I'm like the greatest murderer on this planet, but yet somehow or the other I decide to come into devotional service, and whatever little I try, there the karma or the free will is not going to work, because that is devotional service. So there, like I have the free will or the freedom to rise as much as I want, or to fall down as much as I want, depending upon how sincere I am in my devotional service, isn't it? Whereas the same efforts are not going to work as long as the activity
See,
is
free
not.
will, the word free will. So don't conflate all these different words. as like, because they all have certain connotation. Free will is your ability to choose.
But that is only in the framework of devotional
See,
service.
your ability to choose is your ability, but what is possible or not is what you don't have the, what do you call, freedom to, like you say the example of you wanting to be a multimillionaire. You are still free to endeavor, but you are not in control of whether it will happen or not. So you have free will always in all spheres of life, but you don't have control how it'll, that to achieve or make things happen according to your. You can try to be a multimillionaire all your life. You have the free will to do that, but you may
But
not
then,
be able to make it happen. That control we don't have.
however, but in devotional services, even if I'm not making 100% effort, I know that somewhere or the other it is getting registered, and
So
but,
what does
but so
so
then so then the free will is like is getting used for something. Whereas if I want to become a millionaire, and no matter how hard I
so
try,
but that does not mean you don't have a free will to try as a millionaire. I'm saying when you say you don't have free will, that's not right. The soul
yes,
always
yes,
has free will. So when
yes,
you use these terminologies and make blanket statement, I'm like kind of
yes.
shivering, because
Sorry.
it can create confusion, and then you may do things thinking that is a philosophical reality. So you have free will always. That will never be taken away from you. You have the choice to act however you want. But the realization is that we don't have control. We may try things, but it may not happen. So what we don't have is control, complete control over the results. However, we have always the free will to act, make our choices. That is never taken away from you. So when we say, I don't have free will in material life, no, that's not true. You have all the free will actually to make the choices. What you don't have is the control, and it may not actually help you resolve the karmic cycle, break the karmic cycle. Your material active means means person with a material consciousness, when they act, it may not like help break the cycle of karma. But when we engage the same free will in bhakti, in devotional activities, it can actually undo and release us from the karmic bondage gradually. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand better now. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, thank you. Oh my God, it's just one verse that we saw. The three reasons why Krishna's pastimes are incomprehensible. Krishna's intentions are difficult to understand. So the first part we saw was the activities of this world, the Lila, in the terms of why is Krishna doing this? Why is God doing this? This is the common person's question. Their difficulty in accepting God's presence is becoming devotee is, oh, how can God be existing if there was misery in this world, pain in this world, suffering in this world? That's why she picks up that topic first to address. If we have crossed that hurdle, then okay, God is just, God is all merciful, and my suffering is because of my own karma, and God is equal in distributing each one their own karma. If I accept that, then the next level of difficulty comes in understanding past the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Now I know God exists, and I agree that He can come into this world. But the difficulty in understanding is, I don't know why He is coming. Like, the intentions are not very, very clear. Like, why would God come in the form of a fish? Why would God come in the form of a boar? It's very difficult to understand His intentions. And even if I think, oh, God, He is God, so whatever he wants, He can do. But those very activities, even if I say, oh no, God is omnipotent, He can take any form He wants, but when He apparently acts like an ordinary person, when He does things like kills Vali from hiding behind a tree, or sending Mother Sita to forest, or dancing with the Brajagopis, or stealing the butter, these kind of things can actually like feel very difficult to reconcile. Okay, then why not He act in proper ways? Why is He doing these weird things? And some, even if we think of some activities of the Lord, who seems like an ordinary person, are far beyond the ordinary. On the other hand, then He's lifting the Govardhan hill. He's doing things which are like so inconceivable. I accept, okay, God can accept appear as a small boy, but then my logical brain gets short circuited when I see that small boy lifting a Govardhan hill. So these are the various reasons why Krishna's pastimes can be incomprehensible for some people, because they cannot understand His intentions. When his activities resemble of ordinary activities, it's a problem. God is supposed to be someone who's beyond ordinary. Why is he acting like any other person who is lusty or envious or angry? And when he does incomprehensible things looking as a normal person, that also becomes a very confusing for people. So these are some of the reasons. Mana means it's confusing, inconceivable, makes it hard. Oh Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes which appear to be human and are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. And Prabhupada speaks about, the addresses the point about calling Krishna as partial or God as partial. He compares it with sun. That's one of the main examples he uses. He compares Krishna with the sun. He says the Lord's mercy upon the fallen souls is equally distributed. His pastimes appear to be exactly like a human beings, but actually they're transcendental and without any tinge of material contamination. He is undoubtedly known as partial to his pure devotees. He just said he equally distributes mercy, but now he's saying he is undoubtedly known as partial to his devotees, but in fact, he is never partial, as much as the sun is never partial to anyone. So the sun's rays are available for everyone. It depends on our own ability to absorb it. Like who we are depends on how we use the sunlight. And he speaks about that how a stone can actually become valuable by absorbing that sun. But a blind man cannot see the sun because they lack the ability. So different objects may actually, depending on who they are, can appreciate the mercy of the sunlight. Similarly, depending on our attitude, we have different receptacles. So the sun rays are open to everyone, but the capacities of the receptacles differ. Similarly, we, based on who we are, what is our attitude, we receive the mercy or not receive the mercy. But Krishna is always open to give mercy. So the pure devotee does not render. And then he speaks about how some people think devotional service as flattering the Lord to get special mercy. It's not he says that, but the devotee community is not a mercantile community. They are not doing it for an exchange for anything. A pure devotee does it not for an exchange, but just to show his love. They're not going to the Lord just for the sake of when they're suffering, they want to alleviate their suffering, they go to the Lord. Even that, to that person, the mercy of the Lord is open, but he is reluctant to receive it. So then he compares the pure devotee and a mixed devotee. And in that way, he says that those who are completely against the service of the Lord are considered to be in abject darkness. Those who ask for Lord's favor only at the time of necessity are partial recipients of the mercy of the Lord. And those who are 10% engaged in the service of the Lord are full recipients of the mercy of the Lord. Such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient, and it is not due to the partiality of the all-merciful Lord. And he speaks how when the Lord descends to this material world by his all-merciful energy, he plays like a human being. Despite such apparent manifestation of partiality, his mercy is equally distributed. Then Prabhupada speaks about Kurukshetra, even those soldiers who fought against, they all got benefit. Some or other, if someone puts himself open in the sun's rays, he's sure to get the requisite benefit both by heat and by ultraviolet. I'm not sure if people agree with that. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is never partial. It's wrong for the people in general to think of him as partial. So basically, Prabhupada is hammering this point. God is not partial. It's how we actually receive his mercy. We see God through the false mirror of our mind. So we think this is possible for Krishna or this is not possible. And also, we are biased by nature. We are biased by our own mind. We have bias, and that's what blocks and obstructs us from comprehending the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Just as like pride actually manifests in attempting to judge and blame others, prevents us from understanding Lord's justice. So the pride actually stops us from seeing Lord's justice. Similarly, the habit of dividing the world into friends and enemies makes us doubt that God could be partial. God could be impartial. So I repeat myself. Our pride stops us from understanding Lord's justice, and our habit or our conditioning of trying to see the world as a group of friends and enemies stops us from understanding the Lord as impartial. It's very difficult for us to understand how can anyone be impartial, because we constantly divide the world as friends and enemies. Because of that raga and dvesha, we get stuck in the material world, and because of that we are unable to actually understand how can anyone be impartial. Even So that's why Prabhupada is saying foolish people think that devotional service is just flattering. People flatter him and then they get some benefit out of it. They don't see that is possible for everyone. So they don't realize the bliss of devotional service. And he's like a desire tree that depending on one's desire, he actually benefits us. So anyone can turn to Krishna just as anyone can turn to a desire tree. So Krishna fulfilled the desires of Duryodhan and Arjuna when they both came to ask for help. So Krishna could not be blamed for it. So he's like a desire tree. So that's why Prabhupada is saying this does not mean that the sun is partial in distributing its rays. The sun's rays are open to everyone, but the capacities of the receptacles differ. So our ability to absorb the sun's rays of mercy is what differentiates. It's not that God is impartial. We have different ability to appreciate God's mercy. So the next verse, let's go through it. What is that? That the Supreme Lord appears in this world and he can actually be impartial. These things are vidambanam. These are very bewildering. Someone like Dhritarashtra, they could just not accept that God is impartial. It's completely bewildering. But what is even more bewildering is that Lord appears in any kind of form that he wants. Of course, it is bewildering. O soul of the universe, that you work though you're inactive. For impersonalists like the Advait, they just cannot accept that the Lord can actually be, who is inactive can actually do something. And that you take birth though you are the vital force and the unborn. It's very hard for them to reconcile how the unborn becomes born, how the inactive is active, is working. You yourself descend among animals, men, and sages and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. So then Prabhupada is saying the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but are also apparently contradictory because it is inconceivable to the limited thinking of human being. Because he appears in the form of a boar, or Rama, or Krishna, or Narayan Rishi, or a fish, Matsya. It is said that he is unborn and he has nothing to do. Means so this apparent contradiction. You say he is unborn and you say he takes incarnates. And you say he has nothing to do and he engages in so many activities and you give katha on all these activities and it's very difficult for people to understand. So that's why then there can be no one can calculate him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge. He can be easily understood by the pure devotees because they are intimately related with him. That's why we cannot, with our limited understanding, try to gauge the activities of the Supreme Lord. And humbly, we actually see the activities through and understand the activities of the Lord through the eyes of a pure devotee. That humility is what is required to be able to understand the Lord's the inconceivable ability to appear as he wants and to be able to perform activities as he wants in whatever form he wants. So it's very hard to understand that the unborn takes birth because the Mayavadis cannot accept that because that's why they consider the Janma and the Karma of the Supreme Lord as mirage, as Maya. Ajo Bhutanaya. The Supreme Lord is saying, I appear, I am unborn, although I am unborn, although my body is transcendental, still I come in this world. But people are not able to accept that. And because of all these things, because we are not ready to humbly accept and see the reality through, because that reality is inconceivable to us, we have to see it through a different set of eyes. The eyes that, the Brahmana and the shoemaker pastime where Narada Muni goes and explains. So the shoemaker is able to accept the incomprehensible nature and the power of the Supreme Lord. And because of that, he is able to understand that, yes, God can actually put an elephant through a needle. So drawing together all these verses, so Queen Kunti is addressing that the human difficulty in understanding the manifestations of the personality of Godhead. So the more personal these manifestations are, the harder it is to understand them. Kunti is also explaining that the prime potency of the Supreme Lord is the potency of his love. So that's even more difficult to understand. That's the last verse he stops with. Even if people it's so hard, but most people or some people can accept God is omnipotent and omniscient and all powerful. But it is even more difficult for them to accept that very God can actually forget his omnipotence, forget his omniscience, and become weak and vulnerable, as explained in the next verse. Took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears which washed the mascara off from your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. The sight is bewildering to me. Purport. Here Prabhupada says, another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is supreme in all circumstances, even when he forgets that he is the Supreme. I understand, I see that as a very interesting statement. The Supreme Lord is the supreme in all circumstances, even when he actually forgets his supremacy. And for most people, this can actually short circuit their logical brain. That how can the Supreme Lord, who is supreme, forget that he is supreme and still remember that he is supreme in all circumstances? So if we thought we have enough less complication in life, we have one more here. So the devotees, the Lord never forgets the position of the Supreme Lord, but the Supreme Lord forgets this position. And how do we understand that? Because he is omnipotent, he can forget his potency and still he can remember his supremacy. So that's when pastimes can be very hard. Like we say, oh, Balramji, he did not realize that Pralamba is a demon, and Krishna realized that he is a demon. And he was riding on the back of Pralamba, and then suddenly realized, oh, this is a demon. Like, how does that? Like, he did not realize all these cows and cowherds are, so the calves and the cowherd boys are Krishna for 1 year. And suddenly one day he gets a thought, oh, then he realizes actually. And Krishna himself, sometimes he's fighting and then he realizes, oh no, this is different. So God forgets, but he still remembers. So that is his Achakti, his Yogamaya is involved. So this is even more bewildering. How can that Supreme Lord become a small baby? Okay, I accept he can become a baby, but how can he be fearful of his mother's anger and he is running around crying? So this becomes hard for people. The Supreme Lord accepts loving service of his devotees through those ways. But for normal people, it's not easy. So we may think, what is so special about this Lila? So God has come in the form of fish or boar, and now as an ordinary child, what's a big deal? No, he may come into the earth, I mean, playing multiple roles. But here, what is that? That pretense that it's not even pretense. We think we can see him as great, but to see him as a small boy who even forgets his supremacy is very hard to comprehend. Intellectually can never understand how the Almighty can be deprived of his omnipotence. It's just not possible for any rationalist, even more spiritualist theologians. It becomes very difficult. But for a simple devotee, their Lord can do anything. That anything can be actually even forgetting that he is God. And the last one, I'll take your question. I'm going to make a last point. And then, so in this world, we have pride or false ego, and we think the world as I and mine through the lenses of I and mine, me and mine. And here, what is the qualification to understand the pastimes of the Lord? Here he is showing, Kunti is showing that how there are devotees who consider Krishna as their property. To think myself as Krishna's property is one level, but to see Krishna as my property. He is my small little son. When he does a mistake, I have the right to actually chastise him. And he is actually liable to be punished by me. That attitude of love that Yashoda is having is that love is the main qualification to understand and accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. What to speak of being able to participate in those pastimes. Even to understand fully, we need that love. And without that love, even understanding is not possible. What to speak of participating in those pastimes. So, to summarizing these verses that we saw today, how can anyone understand the activities of the Supreme Lord? We have to let go of the pride and ego that God has to fall into my realm of logic and reasoning. If there is suffering, he is an unjust. He cannot be all powerful or he cannot be merciful. Then how do I have my free will? If I have free will, then he cannot be all powerful. If he is all powerful, I cannot have free will. If he is all merciful, I should not suffer. If I suffer, he is not all merciful. This kind of our own material mundane logic, because we think I am the seer, I am the judge here. With that pride and false ego, when we come, it is very difficult to accept the Lord. And then to see the Lord as impartial to everyone, and to be partial to his devotees is another problem to overcome. And in verse 30, we saw that he taking lower forms can be very inconceivable, but he taking normal forms like a baby and forgetting his omnipotence, that could also be a difficulty in trying to understand the activities of the Lord. So giving up one's pride and giving up one's ego and try to see the Lord through the eyes of a pure devotee whose eye is having the ointment of love like Yashoda, is the only way to understand the activities of the Lord. So this is the conclusion of this section. Through our own logic, reasoning, pride, and ego, we cannot understand the activities of the Lord. We have to see the Lord through the eyes of a whose eyes are anointed with love. And that is the only way we will be able to understand and relish the activities of the Supreme Lord, because He is coming here in order for us to be able to appreciate His intervention in our life. We cannot chant with conviction, we cannot appreciate the Lord's mercy in the form of His deities unless we understand that the Lord is taking all these incarnations to interfere in my life. For my benefit, He is doing all these things. Unless that conviction is there, we may God is just His own pastimes, He is in His own world, He is great, He is all powerful. No, He is coming for me. He is intervening in my life. To be able to see His hands in my life is the qualification to be able to actually love Him, to see Him and understand Him. And she will say in the further verses from 32 to 36 that why that Lord is so difficult to understand His activities. Why does He actually come? What is the main purpose? He wants to offer me devotional service. That we will discuss in the next section. But this is I tried my best to kind of summarize and get into the thought process of Mother Kunti and the book that I'm reading by Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj. It's like 70, 80 or some pages for these 3 or 4 verses. I was just trying to my best to grasp it. He's a scholar. It's so hard to understand. Sometimes I feel how stupid I am when I read the book. It's so hard to get it. And I tried my best to summarize. Thank you. Thank you for patiently waiting. Your digital hands must be paining.
It was so wonderful to hear from you, Prabhuji, that the wait was all worth it.
Thank you.
I had a discomfort in couple of your words, but that got answered immediately when you concluded your discussion. I would want to express that first of all. The moment you said that we cannot understand God by our own thoughts and eyes, I was feeling that does it mean that Lord is an absolutist, wherein we do not have any connection with Lord? But then you also did mention that we would have to anoint our eyes with the love and devotion as what the senior devotees have in that bhav. Then Lord by Himself allows Himself to be known to you by various different activities and leelas. So that was a very, very good thought process. Grateful to you for that.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Yes.
Can Krishna cheat Krishna? So basically, you mentioned about an incident wherein Lord Balram is not able to fathom that Krishna, it is Krishna himself. It is all Vishnu Murtis who are acting as cows, calves, or little boys, cowherd boyfriends of Krishna. So can Krishna cheat Krishna? Or is it that Lord chooses that I want to be in playing a part in this Leela wherein I command my own Yogamaya Shakti to bewilder me so much that I'm not able to justify or know that it is Krishna or Vishnu Murti himself? That's my first question. I'll ask the second question once you answer this.
Means with my limited understanding, yes, God can do anything.
Yes.
And the love of His devotee is sometimes can make Him do things which is like illogical by our understanding. That He can forget Himself, and He can. When you say can He cheat Himself? So in one sense, the word cheating can have multiple connotations. So in this circumstances, for facilitating the pastimes, Balramji is willing to just put him as though he's also the Supreme Lord, but that is his attitude, that he, despite being the Supreme Lord, he is willingly being a puppet of Krishna's Yogamaya to facilitate the pastime. So that vulnerability, because there is love, there is trust, and it is his own energy at the end of the day.
Exactly. They both are brothers in the real sense, or one person in the real sense. That's because Balram completely understands Krishna's heart and offers himself with respect to every single paraphernalia, every single person as what Krishna would need. And he thinks four things ahead in time to facilitate that even before Krishna can execute that pastime at a certain point in time. It's completely inconceivable to
At the
understand.
same time, despite knowing Krishna completely and trying to fulfill, he also exhibit these pastimes to show that even Krishna is inconceivable to him.
Yes, he shows for that. So it really gives goosebumps. Yes. Second question I had, Prabhuji, was with respect to earlier in the discussion, you mentioned about gratitude helping us to understand Krishna's magnanimity and entry to Krishna's pastime. So until and we have gratitude, we would not be able to understand Krishna's mercy. When problems come in life, if in case you have gratitude towards Krishna, you will be able to understand that yes, it is Krishna acting in your life for our purification.
Mhm.
How does that work in terms of? I will probably try and elaborate my question more if in case we start the answer to that question.
No, you can elaborate what you.
Okay. I'm giving a very vague scenario, Prabhuji. Like, there is a terrible crisis happening in Bangladesh right now with respect to devotees. So, how would an Uri take? How would a Madhyam Adhikari take the situation? How would a Kandikari? It is obvious, or even lower than that, it is obvious that a person or a devotee would understand that no, this is whatever happening is not right, and I should go and fight. I should probably beg Krishna that please give me mercy, please give me Shakti, so that I can go and destroy all of the miscreants. Madhyam Adhikari may not think like that. Adhikari definitely will not think like that. But I do not know how would an Uttam Adhikari react in such a situation, and what perspective is that? What thought process is that? How should I understand it? So you can please enlighten us.
In short, if I can think, the external reactions to such situations of a Kanishta, Madhyama, or Uttama may sometimes be same. But what is the attitude? Like Arjuna fought the battle.
Yes.
And what is the attitude though? So many people may say, oh, Arjuna fought, like many Hindus may generally say, see, when there was an injustice, Arjuna fought. We are not saying whether one should fight or not. It is another discussion. But what is attitude is what we can focus on. So each individual may have their own dharma to react in a different way, and it may help in certain ways. But we are also speaking from the perspective of those devotees who are going through it. They don't need to put themselves in danger, but for some reason they are in that danger. How can they actually assimilate that situation? We, as people who are far, we should think, oh, here is a devotee suffering, and how can I actually help? That compassion can be shown. But everything with what is the attitude is what is the whole discussion is about, the one's attitude with which we endeavor. It's not a problem in the interaction, because what matters is our state of mind, our attitude towards others and the world when we actually do our services.
Fantastic, Rose. You nailed it. Thank you. That word really clarified all the doubts.
Thank you. And Sundargo and Mataji, like the question is when Krishna cries, is he in fear of Yashoda? Is he actually afraid of her or just pretending? Based on what Prabhupada shared and we have heard, he is really afraid. It's not a drama. He's really experiencing those emotions. Then the idea is like if he is really fearful, that he has really forgotten he is God, that's where the logical part of it brings a problem. How can he forget? Like he is omniscient. How can he forget that he is God? That is the Indya Shakti, that Yogamaya, that he can utilize. He has even energies which he could employ in order to forget his supremacy and still be reminded of his supremacy and never lose his supremacy. So it's just like beyond logic. He's surely not pretending. It's not like a drama. It's he is fearful. Otherwise, the pleasure of the pastime will not be completely manifested, and Yashoda will not also be able to completely absorb in that mood. She's not acting. She's really thinking, completely convinced that this is my son. So then, to reciprocate that, he also has to completely believe that she is her mother. In Vrindavan, he has no awareness of his supremacy, only when it is required. Otherwise, he fully absorbed in that thought that I am her son. That dynamics of the pastimes is enjoying. And for us, it's like I am in this material world going through that drama, and I see there's so much misery and pain being absorbed in those roles. But that is the spiritual world where, despite being absorbed in those roles, that only produces intense bliss. In this world, that absorption produces intense suffering, but in the spiritual realm, that absorption produces immense bliss. Without that full absorption, the bliss won't be experienced. So he's not pretending. That's what I understand from the books.
Prabhu. Yeah, a couple of things. One is, when you're saying that those they're, I guess, let's say materialists who cannot make sense of Krishna's contradictions. He is born yet unborn, like this. He acts yet he doesn't act.
Mm-hmm.
But if a person gets the explanation that, for example, he is born but not by karma, so in that way he is unborn. Mm-hmm. He acts but not by being contaminated by the modes. Mm-hmm. If this explanation is given, then why should we, this will seem like inconceivable contradictions only if you don't have this information, right? So as long as, when we say that materialists cannot make sense of it, isn't it only due to a dearth of this information? Not that they're like incapable. They're incapable only up until the point that they don't have this information. But then once they get the information, then
Yes, because we hear from Prabhupada, some of these things we have heard so many times in classes, and so many times Prabhupada has repeated them. It feels like why anyone in the world would not believe these things?
Yeah, only because they don't have the information.
They don't have the information. Believe me, just the information alone won't convince them.
But why?
Because their attitude.
Lack of security, or
lack of security, lack of that Prabhupada said, right? Like the sun's rays, he is thing. The state of heart, receiving the mercy of a devotee, that has actually enabled us to see the Lord in for who He is in a true way. That is our only qualification. We have opened our heart, and we have put faith in the words of a devotee.
So you're saying that we accept these explanations is not just by our intellectual strength, let's say. It's, like, let's say a materialist off the street, I don't know how to say, but if they were to hear these same explanations, it is not by karma that he is born Krishna, not by the contamination of the modes that he's. If you were to give these explanations, a person would still not necessarily accept.
Okay. How I see these verses is, there is increasing levels of difficulty in accepting the Lord's activities. On a certain level, that person may accept. Then she opens up a further challenge that person might have. That person believe that omniscient Lord can lose the awareness of his omniscience? On a certain level, that might be acceptable for this person, because if this person is only accepting because it is making sense to his intelligence, not because a pure devotee is saying, fine. On that level, they may accept because it is matching their intelligence. But their intelligence will eventually run into trouble, because Krishna's activities are going to be a challenge to our mundane logic and reasoning.
Yeah, like, for example, the fact that he can be the smallest, and they be the size of a thumb within our heart, and at the same time, he is all pervading, right? So there isn't any logical explanation for that one. So
yeah,
like this. Okay, and also, Prabhu, so to accept something that's like beyond our, logic, or beyond the scope of our intellect, the only thing that will help us there is, you're saying, some kind of mercy, or the mercy in some form from a pure devotee, is it?
Yes. Some things we may accept because it is making logical sense, but we will come to a place where that won't work for us. So the safest way is see the Supreme Lord through the eyes of a pure devotee.
Through the eyes of a pure devotee, what does that actually mean? Yeah, because to say that we're seeing it the way he sees it just means what? That because he said it, I accept it? To see it through the eyes of the pure devotee, what does that mean?
in my level of consciousness, I may not even bother about God's existence. But I come to first understand, oh, I need to bother about these things. And now I may accept God's existence, but I may not understand the intricacies of his activities because of my own limitations of intelligence, logic, or pride or ego or anything. So, say for example, my ability to actually see, oh, God can, because of love, he can even forget himself and be fearful of his mother. These kind of things I could not penetrate, and I had no worry about in this world about these things. Now I'm able to think about these things, and I have the desire to understand these things because of the intervention of a devotee.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I have now developed that, okay, because I had the faith.
Yes, it's the faith.
So
That's the word I was going to use.
yes,
Faith.
the faith is there. Because of that, I'm even open to think about these things and worry about these things. And still I know Krishna is, to capture Krishna in my heart is elusive.
Is what?
To capture
Or
Krishna in my heart, like
elusive. You said
he is elusive. Means
okay.
he is not very easy to be captured.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So then I have to learn the ways of pleasing him through the footsteps of a devotee who already has that love.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of understanding the activities of the Lord is to actually become absorbed in the Lord. So when I'm trying to dissect with reasoning, I'm absorbed, but I'm not absorbed with my heart. But there is a state where one forgets oneself, which is the state of Kunti or Yashoda and all of them. So here there is a gradation also. Yashoda is being shown by Kunti as someone even greater than her because she is absorbed in that role. Here, Kunti is still not completely on that level. Her relation with Krishna, uh, Yashoda comes even a level further because she has fully lost any awareness of Krishna's greatness.
Oh, that's what you mean by absorption. The level.
Any awareness of his greatness. The greater the devotee is, the greater the
the
further
less yeah.
they lack the awareness of the supremacy of Krishna.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, so you're saying that the less cognizant we become of Krishna's greatness, the more, what would you say? The more what?
The more intense the love is.
Mm-hmm.
And this does not apply for a materialist.
Yeah.
Because
yeah,
that person is also unaware of Krishna's greatness.
Yeah, and he would need to be aware of it.
Because that is covered by ignorance and this is covered by love.
Yes, yeah. Just one last thing, Prabhu. When you were talking about the fact that it is our discourse, I don't know if you can find that line, that discourse of us conditioned souls with each other, that you said that causes something or prevents
pain
something.
And suffering in this world.
Yeah, so the point there was that because we are interacting with each other on the platform of false ego, we're suffering in this world. Was that the main point there, or am I missing?
Yes, the suffering in this world is created because many people blame the suffering of this world to Krishna, on Krishna. It is our own destiny that we have created. And apart from that, the interaction between Bhutanam and Mitahakali, so the dissensions that we have between people due to our pride and envy and competition for the limited resources of this world, the desire to lord it over, Prabhupada says. If you see, Prabhupada says, the desire here, everyone here wants to lord it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Lord. This destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse. Our interactions are making our destiny and others' destiny.
Yes, and this is the line that I actually wanted, was that through the social intercourse, basically it means that social intercourse means that we're dealing with each other on the platform of selfishness. No?
Yeah.
That's
yes.
a way of saying the same thing.
Yes. Competition is because of selfishness.
Yeah. And by dealing with each other on that platform, we are creating karma. And
yes. And suffering.
Yeah.
Karma for future and suffering for now and future.
And future, yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Such a very positive. Thank you, everyone. She is extremely grateful for your time and attention. And see you all